Hi! In this video, I'm going to show you a method for making hands and feet. This method can be a bit meticulous, but you get great results. So first things first, I'm going to take a little bit of clay and I'm going to press it into a disc that's a little bit more like a wedge. So this is going to be the palm of the hand. You can see the hand is actually kind of rectangular shaped if you ignore the thumb over here. And you can see it's thicker back here than it is here. And so that is what I'm going for. Also, if you are making more than one hand, which in a lot of cases you likely are, you would do two of these at a time. One and then for the left hand and one for the right hand. But for the sake of this video, because it is quite meticulous, I'm only going to do one at a time. Next thing you need to do is have some clay that is really soft. So I have a little bit of water on my hands and I'm going to pinch this clay into like long skinny coils. This is basically called water wedging. I'm trying to rework some moisture back into the clay. Now I know it looks really wet and sticky right now, but I'm going to work that into the clay so it's not going to be an issue. After I pinch it out nice and long, I fold it over on itself and I repeat. I do this until the clay is consistent in moisture. And then I'm ready to actually roll it into itself because I have more water still on the palm of my hand. Then fold it over, roll it, fold it over, roll it. This is just a great way to get nice soft clay. So if you're working with your clay and you need to reuse it or something, this is a great way to prepare it really quickly. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is make the thumb. And I need to decide if it's the right or the left hand. So I'm going to take a chunk of clay, finish the edge, just kind of pinch it and pat it so that it has kind of like a bullet shape. This will be the tip of the thumb. And then you can see I have just a little moisture on the palm of my hand. I'm going to roll into a truncated cone. And then I just want this to kind of be rounded. Then I need to check and see, and always check your sources too. That looks pretty good. But you want to notice a couple of things on your hand, because that's the model that you're using. Like in my case, the tip of my thumb comes just a little higher than the height of my palm. And so that's how I sculpt as well. Okay, so consider for your own hand how things will match up. That's your best model. So I'm not going to attach this. I'm just going to set it there as a reference. And now my hands are drying, so I need to work a little bit of moisture back into them, just a little bit. So that's actually super wet and I would not work with my hands like that. So I'm going to use my surgical towel to wipe off the excess moisture before I continue with the rest of the fingers. And yes, I roll each finger separately. Now, I can also roll it on this wood. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping it nice and round. I'm going to choose one end to be the tip and just kind of pinch it and pat it into shape. This can be done really at any scale. I've done this so that I have hands that are about 1/2 inch in size to life size and larger. Like I said, it can be a bit meticulous, but I actually enjoy the process. So now that's a pretty good diameter. I'm looking again at my reference. That's a good diameter, and you can see I have all this excess clay because I need to think about like how long everything is too. Just look at reference points on your hand. So this excess clay, I don't actually tear it off, but what I do instead is I'm going to actually roll this into a taper and it's going to become this bone. it's like a tail, like a little rat tail. That also has the added purpose and benefit of being an attachment point so that there's something more that the fingers are going to attach to. Okay, so now that being said, I have to roll out the rest of the fingers, but I don't want these to dry out. So I should be putting it on a sealed surface. So I have a piece of plywood here that has a sealed surface. So I'll just transfer these over there so that they don't dry out while I make the rest of my fingers. So give me just a moment and I will make the fingers. All right, I got 4 fingers and a thumb right now. And so this is the pinky and that's the pointer. It will be in a configuration, oops, like this. And I know that looks really weird right now because everything's super long. And so to attach everything together, before I attach everything together, what I actually need to do is start creating the joints. And you can forego this step if you would like to, but it creates a significantly more realistic hand. So for example, this main joint here, that creates a really sharp point, those are important things to consider. So if this is my pointer finger, and it will be attached to the back side of the palm like this. And sometimes if you need to stick, just a little lick or a brush of water can help. Now that's not a permanent connection. It's just so that I can see the length and I can see if that's where about I would like it. And indeed, that seems okay to me. And so, oops, and I actually have it backwards because this is the thickness right here. It's easy to get turned around and mixed up while you're doing this. So really give it your entire focus. And I've been making hands like this for years and I still get mixed up. I can't even tell you how many times I needed to make like 3 left hands and I ended up with, you know, all right hands, something like that. Okay, so I can tell that that's the length that I want. And then I need to look at this distance here. So this is a little bit less than halfway to the tip of the finger. And so what I'm going to do, if you see this angle right here, I'm going to cut this angle. And it's helpful to use an X-Acto knife or another stainless kind of knife that is nice and sharp. So I'm going to cut it at an angle. And then, without disturbing that angle, I can actually reattach the finger and I will have a really nice sharp joint. And so I'll do that for each of the fingers and I'll also do this joint here. The other option instead, and I would score and slip those, I'm just going to blend them a little bit for you. The other option instead of actually cutting it is you can take, and I'm just going to press the clay inward together like this to make the bend. Because the clay still is plastic. And then after I do that, because it's like a little thick down here, I can go in with my rib tool and I can press this to make the crease that needs to be there. I prefer to cut it myself and flip it all the way through. And so you do that for all the fingers, and then we'll be ready to attach them on the back of the palm. All right, so I have my fingers all cut and reattached, and they look a bit knotty right now, like gnarled, but I can go back and I can fix that. You can see the realism, and there's great opportunity to actually put the fingers in very specific poses. I've also done the same to the thumb. And so you can see the conglomeration back here, and it looks really thick, but we take care of that in a little bit. So now I will very carefully remove the fingers because they're not attached, and I will score the back side of the palm, and then do the same to the fingers. And then I will slip just with a little bit of water. Remember to keep things the right direction, because this is where the fingers go, because it's thinner there. Because after you assemble it all together, taking it apart is no fun. And so now I can actually take and press very lightly to pick up the fingers. And then, they're crazy, but that's okay. I can go back and I can start positioning them the way that I need and want them to be. I'm going to space out these bones just a bit. And if I want any fingers to be more straightened or further bent, now is a great time to do that as well. This is a really great opportunity for very, very expressive hands. And then again, thinking of where the thumb goes, I will be able to place it accordingly. And so this looks a little strange right now, but that's because this clay is going to become this portion right here. So I'll attach it at the bottom, but I'm going to actually pull some of this clay here. And when I'm resting this, it's a good idea to rest it on something like a piece of foam or something like that, so that it does not lose its shape, because it is pretty fragile. Slip and slip, stick. And now I'll be able to start to blend things and put them in their proper location. So there's actually like kind of a hollow here in the hand, so I'm going to press that inward just a bit. And then I'm going to use my pressing tools. This is really pretty gummy right now, but it still does the trick to define where the bones are, and also to strengthen the bond, and keep those fingers. If you want them separated, keep them separated. If you want them to kind of stick together a little bit, make sure that you are attending to that. And so now I'll be able to go in with my brushes and actually start pressing the material down and into place. So I'm pulling some of this clay up and pulling some of this clay down, and it got a little squished there, so I just go back and I redefine it. I also know that the bones are not so clearly defined at the back part of the hand, so I'm going to brush it in a diagonal to erase or diminish those lines to a point. Brush this. And you can brush to whatever point you would like to diminish the lines. And so then to take care of this area right here, I like to use a clipped serrated rib and then just pull the clay downward onto the thumb and pull this clay upward. And the clay is still so soft and plastic, I can move it in whatever way it needs. And so that is just a really rough introduction to how I make hands. Then I like to go in and look at these kinds of creases and actually press them in. And you can brush out the rest of the details to make it however it is that you would like. I also, once it gets a bit more dry, I go back and redefine some of the shadows so that it will achieve the level of realism that I desire. But the clay is still plastic enough that I can do some really pretty meticulous poses. Look at your own hands when you're trying to get fingers into specific poses, because it is quite easy to think you have it correct, but the only way you can know is by looking at an actual reference. And then that will make a big difference in how your end product comes out. Okay?